You feel tired in ways you cannot explain. Your body rests, yet something inside you trembles as if it has walked through a long night with no stars. You wake already carrying a weight that does not belong to your muscles, a heaviness that sits behind your eyes and waits in your chest. It follows you in silence. It moves with you like a second shadow. And you wonder why the world feels thicker than before, why even the simplest breath seems to ask for more of you than you can give. You tell yourself it is stress or routine or the endless noise of life. Yet a quieter truth whispers beneath all of that, a truth you feel but rarely name. You are not tired. Your soul is exhausted. There is a difference, and you sense it in the places where no one looks. The fatigue is not in your bones. It is in the parts of you that have carried too much for too long. The dreams you abandoned, the emotions you swallowed, the battles you fought alone in the dark. There is a silence inside you that has gone unheard, a forest without footsteps, a river without a listener. You have lived many small deaths that no one ever saw, and each one asked your soul to hold the weight of what you could not speak. So it did, quietly, faithfully, until now. Something in you is calling for a return, a homecoming, a soft place where your inner life can breathe again. You feel the pull even when you resist it. It comes like a faint light at the edge of a long corridor. It comes like the memory of morning, and though you cannot name it yet, you know it is real. Something within you is asking to be seen. There is a moment in every inner journey when the exhaustion you feel stops belonging to the body and begins to reveal its deeper source. You sense it when the day feels heavier than the hours it contains. You sense it when your thoughts wander into places you never meant to visit. It is the soul speaking through the cracks of your routine, asking you to notice what has been forgotten. This fatigue is not the simple collapse of energy. It is the quiet ache of an inner world that has carried the burden of unexpressed truths. You have walked through years of expectations and roles. You have shaped yourself to fit the rhythms of others. You have held yourself upright even when a part of you longed to kneel. And every time you silenced a fear or swallowed a longing, the soul stepped forward to carry it for you. It did so because it knows endurance. It knows how to keep the fire alive even when the outer world grows cold. But even fire needs breath. Even silence needs a listener. There is a split that forms when you live too far from your inner landscape. One part continues the motions of life. The other waits in the shadows like a forgotten mirror. And the more you ignore that mirror, the heavier the exhaustion becomes. Not because you are weak, but because you are two. A surface self that performs, and a deeper self that remembers. The soul waits behind the eyes, holding the weight of every emotion that never found a home. This is the exhaustion you feel, a tiredness of being unseen, even by yourself. In this place of inner distance, symbols rise naturally. The forest where you once wandered, the door you walked past without opening, the river you never dared to follow. These images live in you because they are the language of the unconscious. They reveal what words cannot carry. They show you where your essence has been left behind. And now the soul stands at the threshold, calling you back through those symbols, calling you to look inward and see the truth hidden beneath the tiredness. You are not at the end of your strength. You are at the beginning of your return. There comes a point when the exhaustion stops being vague and starts to feel like a presence. You sense it in the way your breath catches for no reason, in the quiet tremor beneath your calm face. It feels like walking through a dim corridor where each step echoes a little too loudly. You try to push forward, yet something inside you pulls back. The body moves, but the deeper self hesitates. You feel as if you are carrying a memory you cannot remember, a weight you never chose. This is the first sign of a soul worn thin by years of holding, what you could not bear to feel. In the language of the psyche, this inner heaviness is the voice of the shadow. Not the darkness you fear, but the part of you that has stood in the night alone, waiting for your return. It carries everything you abandoned. It keeps every emotion you denied. It is the keeper of the unlived moments and silenced truths. When you feel this strange exhaustion, it is the shadow pressing its hands against the walls of your awareness, asking to be acknowledged. Not to punish you, but to reunite with you. For without that reunion, you remain divided against yourself. Imagine a forest at dusk. You walk through it with a lantern, but the light grows dim. Behind you lies a trail of footprints that fade into the undergrowth. Those footprints are the choices you postponed, the pieces of your nature left behind to make others comfortable. The forest is your unconscious. The fading light is your tiredness. And somewhere among the trees, the part of you that remembers everything waits with quiet patience. This is why your soul feels exhausted. It has walked this forest alone for far too long. Yet even in this dimness, something begins to shift. The first step toward wholeness always comes as a whisper. You feel it in the way the air changes, in the way the shadows soften, in the way your own reluctance begins to loosen. A quiet recognition forming in the dark. This is the beginning of the return. There is a moment when the exhaustion you carry begins to show its true shape. It no longer feels like simple fatigue. It becomes a kind of inner tremor, the sensation of standing at the edge of a river you have avoided crossing. You feel it as a pull behind the sternum, a soft ache that rises without warning. Your emotions grow more transparent. Old memories return in fragments. The world feels distant, as if wrapped in a thin veil. This is the soul preparing to rise through the layers you have buried it under. Psychologically, this is the meeting with the forgotten self. The anima or animus, the inner figure that holds your deepest vitality. Jung called it the bridge to the unconscious, the guide that leads you back to the source of meaning. When ignored, this inner guide retreats into silence. When invited, it returns like a breath of warm wind, stirring parts of you thought had died. The exhaustion you feel is the gap between the life you live and the life that wants to live through you. It is the tension of an inner river pressed behind a dam. Picture a doorway in an abandoned temple. Dust floats in the air like faint gold. You have passed this doorway many times, yet you never dared to enter. Now the light inside begins to flicker. You sense movement. You sense invitation. The temple is your inner life. The door is the threshold to truth. The flickering light is the soul remembering itself. You stand there feeling both fragile and drawn in. This is not weakness. It is the first sign of alignment. The exhaustion softens because something deeper is waking. And as you stand at this threshold, you notice another truth rising. The life you lost is not gone. It waits. It breathes beneath every moment you dismissed. It pulls you toward it with a quiet certainty, as if reminding you that you were never meant to shrink to fit the expectations around you. This recognition prepares the way forward, a step into a space where the soul can breathe again. There comes a point when the exhaustion no longer simply calls for recognition. It calls for surrender, not the collapse you fear, but a soft yielding to what has been waiting within you. You feel it as a loosening in the chest, a quiet trembling that feels strangely like relief. The outer world fades for a moment, and you notice a subtle presence moving inside you. It feels like stepping into a vast night sky, and realizing the darkness is not empty. It carries stars you had forgotten existed. In the psyche, this is the threshold of the self, the deeper center that holds your wholeness. Not the persona that performs, nor the shadow that remembers pain, but the one who watches through it all. The exhaustion begins to dissolve, because you are no longer resisting the inner call. You are listening. You are allowing the truth to rise without forcing it into shapes that please others. This shift is small yet seismic. It allows your inner world to breathe. It gives the soul space to stretch its wings again. Imagine a river at dawn. The night still lingers, yet the first light touches the water with a soft glow. Mist rises in thin spirals, as if the earth itself is exhaling. You place your hand in the water and feel its quiet strength. This river is your inner life. The dawn is your awakening. The mist is the release of everything you held too tightly. As the light grows, the river begins to move with more certainty, as if remembering its path to the sea. You feel yourself drawn into its rhythm, carried by something wiser than your fatigue. In this gentle surrender, you begin to understand the truth beneath your tiredness. You were not meant to carry every weight alone. You were meant to flow, to move, to change form as life asks you to. This recognition opens the path forward, preparing you for the moment when exhaustion becomes clarity and the soul finally finds its breath again. There is a quiet convergence happening inside you. The tiredness that once felt heavy now feels softer, almost translucent, as if the weight has stepped forward to reveal what it always concealed. You notice how each part of your journey has led you here. The shadow that guarded your forgotten truths. The inner guide that stirred beneath your silence. The deeper self that waited with patient certainty. All of it moving toward the same center. All of it calling you back to yourself. You feel it like a slow rising of light behind the ribs. A warmth returning to places that felt cold for years. The forest within you begins to breathe again. The temple door opens a little wider. The river reflects the first full colors of morning. These images are not fantasies. They are movements of the psyche, signals that the soul is no longer wandering alone. You are stepping toward it with open eyes, open breath, open presence. The exhaustion loosens because the distance is closing. Something settles inside you as this truth unfolds. A sense of belonging that does not depend on achievement. A sense of clarity that does not demand perfection. You begin to understand that the journey was never about becoming someone new. It was always about returning to what has always been yours. The first light of your own essence. The quiet center that held you even when you forgot it was there. And as this realization expands, the world feels different. Softer. Wider, more honest. You feel your own presence as if for the first time. The exhaustion fades into something gentler, something truer. A stillness that feels like home. You stand now in a place where your breath feels fuller. The weight you carried has shifted into understanding, into a gentle awareness of the path you walked. The soul that once felt exhausted begins to rest in the quiet space you have opened for it. You can feel its presence more clearly, not as a burden, but as a companion that has waited for your attention. The tiredness softens into a calm that feels like an inner dawn. You begin to sense how your days might unfold from here, not with the urgency that once drove you, but with the slow rhythm of someone who has remembered their own center. You move through the hours with more presence. You notice the subtle movements of your inner world. You allow yourself to pause. You allow yourself to listen. The soul responds with a warmth that rises through your chest, a reminder that you were never as lost as you feared. In the coming days, you may feel moments of quiet recognition, small shifts, soft openings. You may catch glimpses of the forest within you. You may hear the faint echo of the river. You may sense the shadow walking beside you with less distance. And each of these moments will bring you closer to yourself, closer to the truth you have been seeking without knowing. There is a peace waiting in the space you have entered, a peace that does not demand, a peace that welcomes. Let yourself rest in it. Let yourself breathe without rushing. Let yourself trust the slow return of your own light. And when the world grows loud again, remember this quiet place inside you. It has been yours all along.